Is selling your business your retirement plan? Coach David here. Welcome back to another episode of Build with a Plan, where we talk about making sure you're building your business with a plan and not just off the cuff with thoughts in your head, but actually put it down on a piece of paper so that you can make sure that you can grow your business to be successful. And today we're talking about selling your business as a retirement plan. You know, there's a lot of people out there that when they start the business, they actually have no end game. But once you get into a business, once the business has been running for a little bit, then you start thinking about what is next. What do I do? You know, if the business has been going along pretty well and you're making a decent money, you might be thinking, okay, well, I'm going to sell it and that's going to be my retirement plan. Or you have no real plan at all. So today I want to talk about selling your business. You know, whether it is a retirement plan or regardless, you do need an exit plan from your business. And there's really three ways to do it. You can sell it, you can transition it over to a family member, or you just shut it down completely. So let's talk about this. If you are the face of your business, if one client accounts for at least 15% of your sales, or do you make most of the day-to-day decisions? And can you leave for more than 2 weeks without your business suffering? Now you might say yes to more than one of these, but even if you said yes to just one of those, you are going to run into a problem. And the reason why you're going to run into a problem is that these are all signs of a business that's almost impossible to sell. At least impossible to sell at a price you think it is worth. We'll get into, a little bit about that in a few minutes. But when you have a business, you have to decide what your end game is. Again, you can either sell it, you can pass along, or you can walk away. Now, if your plan is to sell it and you want to get a decent return on your business, then these are some key things you need to think about. You got to make sure you get systems in place. Got to make sure that you have key personnel in key places. You need to make sure that you have predictable sales, a predictable sales process. You got to make sure your marketing is predictable. And you have to make sure that you have standard operating procedures in place for different levels of your business. And why is this important, you ask? Well, when someone wants to buy your business, they don't want to start over. They want to just slide into your business and continue to operate it as it was without a lot of thinking. Yes, they want to grow it. Yes, they might make some changes. But the idea is that it can run on its own. And if it can't run on its own, if you were to take yourself out of the equation and your business could not run for a substantial amount of time, then you have a business that's very, very difficult to sell. And why is that? Well, what happens is if you are the face of the business, then when you leave, there's a good chance that a majority of your clients are going to move on to somebody else because they were only going to your business because they liked working with you, they trusted you, you had that personal relationship, and that's great in the beginning. And yes, for some key clients, you should still maintain that relationship. But overall, if you want to be able to walk away, you have to make sure that even those key accounts are being looked after by somebody else. And this is something you can't just do right away. You can't just think, okay, next year I'm going to sell and then throw all these things together in the next 12 months and be able to sell it. No, this is really a 3 to 5 year plan, right? So you want to make sure that you are thinking about the future or your end game soon enough so that you can actually do something about it so that you can get the return on it that you want to. I have a story about this guy named Paul. So he's a plumber. I've known and I've worked with him for a bit. And here's the thing. He was a plumber with somebody else. He worked for somebody else. And then he got his master license. Then he decided that he wanted to go out on his own. And he did. But here's the thing. Like, he was decent at the business. Okay? Decent at performing the work. Getting the work done. Understanding. He had a very good personality. Very friendly. Very approachable. But he ran his business like that. He wasn't always upfront with the timing. He would tell clients or customers that he would be there, in half an hour, and he was 2 hours away. And what happens there is that if you don't have your business set up right, not only can't you sell it, but you will actually reach a ceiling in the success. But you will also have ups and downs. And you will have employee turnover because you don't have processes set up. You're not sure how to pay them properly. Sometimes you might even, in this particular case, Paul, missed payroll a few times. And that's what you don't want. And when you have your business set up like that, rarely do you ever have any long time success with your business. And you're really only owning your job, because you need to make sure that you're running everything, you're scheduling stuff, you're doing all the hiring, all the firing, all the a lot of times you're doing all the invoicing and all the sales, all the customer service, because you're the face. Yeah, hopefully you start handing some of those tasks off, but you want to start doing it in the proper way. That's where the standard operating procedures, or SOPs, as a lot of people refer them to, they need to be in place. When somebody calls, what happens next? What do you say to them? Right? What does that process look like? And then once you've sent somebody over there, what does that person do when they're there? Do they have a report they fill out? Or do they just look around, make an educated guess on what needs to happen? Do they call back to you, the owner, and say, this is what I think it is happening, what should we charge? Or are you the owner? Have you already gone in and priced out the job? But is that job, if you've priced out that job, is there a written quote? Is there a step-by-step expectation to the client on what work is actually going to be done? See, these are all key elements to make sure that you can sell the business. Because again, if you don't have all this in place and you go to sell it, the new buyer is going to go, well, I need to step into your shoes and I need to do all the sales and I need to do, all the quoting and that type of stuff. Oh, well, I don't want that. I want a business that is predictable and that operates without the owner in place. That's the only way you're going to get a reasonable return on your investment. So don't be like Paul and run your business like you're a one-man show. If you really want to get a return on your investment, you got to make sure, again, that you have the systems in place. That's like, ordering systems, how many people per van, if we're just talking about the plumber at this point, what does that look like? Do you have a staff meeting once a week? Do you, how do the jobs get allocated to the workers? What does your key personnel look like? Do you have someone that is looking after the sales? Do you have a sales manager? Do you have a general manager? Do you have an office manager? I'm not saying you have to have all these different people, but you got to make sure that they're all taken care of by an employee, so that when you do go to sell, that employee theoretically will move along with them. Now, sometimes you run into that issue where they don't want to move along and they only want to work for the original owner. But that's something that can be negotiated in the sale of the business. But also, if you have the systems in place, you have the SOPs in place, then having to bring on a new key personnel isn't as difficult because they can slide in and they have the procedures and the systems already in place. Again, you've got that predictable sales funnel. You've got that predictable customer journey. What does that look like? It's very favorable and can be repeatable. That's the other, predictable and repeatable, so that if someone does come in, they can look at the process and say, okay, I need to say this then, I need to do this at that point, I need to do this, and I need to do that. And when you're successful in doing that, it's easy to replicate. And that's why a lot of the times franchises are very successful, because they already have all the systems and the predictability built in, because it's tried, tested, done over and repeatable over and over again. So you want to think more like that. How can I have these systems in place and the key personnel to make sure that that business can run without you being there? Now, then again, unless you do all this, you're going to end up selling your business either not at all or for far, far less, and probably just for the customer list. And even that, your sales could be $500,000. That customer list is not worth $500,000. And the reason for that is they can't guarantee that, the seller cannot guarantee that that $500,000 is going to show up next year. Because once you sell the business, it's a new owner, a new procedure, a new person. And if they don't like any of that, you're going to lose that. So that business might be worth $250,000 to $300,000, if that. Unless there are other things in place. So I want you to think about it right now. What is your end game? And if you don't know what it is, figure it out, because again, you have three options. You can sell it, transition it over, or you can walk away. And the things to keep in mind: are you the face of the business? Does one of your clients account for at least or more than 15% of your sales? Do you make most of the day-to-day decisions? And can you leave your business for more than 2 weeks without affecting the success of that business? Now, these are 4 questions you need to ask yourself. And if you said yes to any of those, then you need to seriously think about what you need to put in place. So this is Build with a Plan with Coach David. Until next time, Coach David out.